Hello guys, and welcome to my video on Battlegrounds. So as you guys know, Morrowind Early Access has begun, and Battlegrounds are now available if you have pre-purchased Morrowind. So we're going to be talking about Battlegrounds. We're going to go over a little bit of footage as well. It's going to be in the background. You can see me playing a little bit on the Battlegrounds on my Templar here, playing my Ghost build, which is very, very strong in this patch. It's a very strong build for this Morrowind patch, so I've been enjoying playing it a lot. And so let's talk a little bit about Battlegrounds. So the way it works is how do you queue for a Battleground is the same way that you'll queue for a dungeon. You just open up your party menu, and then instead of queuing for a dungeon, you just go to the Battlegrounds tab and you'll queue for the Battleground. So let's talk about some things that I wanted to bring up about Battlegrounds. This is the first kind of big no-no, something I really didn't like in Battlegrounds. You can't actually pick the game mode you queue for. There's 3 different game modes in Battlegrounds. There's Capture the Flag, which is where you have a flag on your base and every enemy has a flag as well, and you take turns capturing the flags. There is a game mode called Domination, which there are set flags around the map, and you have to hold the points, and whoever holds points gets points towards winning the match as long as they have the flag under their control. And then there is finally Team Deathmatch, which is quite simply just a slugfest where you just kill enemy players on the other team. So for me personally, I did not enjoy the Capture the Flag at all. I thought the Capture the Flag mechanics were very poorly put together. They were very clunky, very hard to do, and then on top of it, it just didn't work, especially with I solo queued for all my Battlegrounds, so I didn't have an organized team going into it, and I mean, it's just not a fun game mode. I just couldn't have fun doing it. I just couldn't really get into it. I tried playing the Domination game mode. Domination's a little bit better than Capture the Flag. It's a bit of fun. But at the same time, it's very focused on like holding points, etc. So you find that people begin to ball up, and you have kind of like all Zergs on one flag, kind of running around, flipping flags behind each other, and very few people kind of spreading out. And that's something that I saw a lot was with more organized groups coming into Battlegrounds, and they were sticking together in groups of 4 and just absolutely steamrolling individual players as they came by them. And then finally, there's Team Deathmatch, which is just the slugfest, and by far my favorite game mode. So something that I had a lot of gripe with about Battlegrounds is that you can't actually select the game mode that you play. When you queue up for a Battleground, you don't get to pick what game mode you're going to do. Now, this wouldn't be a big deal if the different game modes weren't so vastly different, but the game modes are so different, and the different like play that you do in the game modes varies so much that, you know, how do I put it? You can have a build set up for a Team Deathmatch that wouldn't be effective in Capture the Flag, and you could have a build set up for Capture the Flag that wouldn't be effective for Team Deathmatch, but because you cannot select which Battleground you're going to queue in and which game mode you're going to play, it's impossible to go into, like, to set up that build and then reliably be like, this is my Capture the Flag build, and I'm going to practice it and play it in Capture the Flag mode. You're only going to get in Capture the Flag mode 1 out of every 3 times, which is just atrocious. So there you have it. That's kind of my first big gripe with Battlegrounds. Why can't we select the game mode that we're going into? I really don't like that. That was a big oversight on ZeniMax's part, I think, for Battlegrounds. This was on the PTS for months, and they still didn't add the ability to select a game mode. So let's move on to another sort of issue I had. Just how are there so many of these like clerical issues with Battlegrounds? It really got to me. Queuing for Battlegrounds. It takes a really long time to queue. It takes 20 to 30 minutes to queue into a Battleground. And if you're waiting 20 or 30 minutes for a game mode that you might not even want to play, I mean, oh man, it just made it really unattractive for me. So let's talk about what we're seeing in Battlegrounds. There's no CP in Battlegrounds. I'm okay with that. I think that the CP changes this patch were actually really good. I think that they did a great job of helping balance the kind of discrepancies we had with CP in this game. So I thought they were a good change. So I was a little bit upset and sad that we didn't get to see CP in Battlegrounds, but at the same time, it's not really a big deal because it's going to really motivate newer players to try out the Battlegrounds, people who haven't really done this stuff before. Now, unfortunately, that's somewhat of a double-edged sword. Due to the lack of CP in Battlegrounds, it means that these instant damage sets, like proc sets, as we just saw, this guy spit out a lovely Veladrith proc in front of me there as I killed him. These proc sets are quite frankly overperforming in Battlegrounds due to the fact that there's no CP. The proc sets just give you so much free damage, they give you so much so much free burst that you can focus entirely on survivability or tankiness and have a very powerful offensive build and very powerful defensive, well-rounded build without having to like actually be consciously aware of how you're swinging your skills. So if you guys weren't a fan of the proc meta, you probably won't like Battlegrounds that much because it is very, very, very rampant in Battlegrounds right now. As for like general PvP class balance, I feel like this patch did take a positive step towards getting balance a little bit more there, minus this huge kind of like focus on proc builds. Procs are something that really needs to be addressed in this game. I don't know, I have a lot of trouble understanding why ZeniMax thinks that procs are a good idea for the health of this game. I think that they just add a certain element of easiness to it. It just makes it so anybody, regardless of how good or bad or fast or skilled they are, can get away with free kills. So it's not really something that I like. So let's talk a little bit about the map structure. I actually really enjoyed the map structure in Battlegrounds. I thought they were really well put together. That's one part that ZeniMax did good on, is they put together a good map. There's got lots of nooks and crannies you can run around. Really excellent for playing a mobility kind of gameplay. But like I said, if you don't get the Team Deathmatch game mode, the mobility gameplay isn't necessarily as effective, and you're better off playing more of a tanky build, and you'll see better results that way. As for performance this patch, I noticed quite a bit of a drop in my frame rate all over the place, not just in Battlegrounds or Cyrodiil or in any specific PvE zone. It was actually everywhere, and it was quite a large, like significant frame rate drop. Prior to this patch, I was sitting at around 60 FPS. In pretty much all situations, and of course if I went into something intense that would drop, but it wouldn't go much more below 30 or 40 FPS. As you can see here, I have my FPS showing in this Battleground, and I'm hovering around 30 to 60 FPS at all times in here, average of about 40. Now this was after I had gone and turned down all of my graphics from my previous, from the previous times I had played. When prior to the Morrowind patch, when I had played, I was at 60 FPS with much better graphical settings than I have now. I had to turn all my graphics to the minimum settings that I could, and I still don't have as good FPS as I used to. So that's something that I had noticed this patch that I really, I don't know, I'm hoping that's something Zenny fixes soon. That's something that not just me, but all players will notice this patch as well. Something that is very noted that I think I need to bring up for you guys is that there's a big change in the patch notes. This is one of my favorite changes for this patch, is that you no longer get a 70% snare when someone gap closes into you. It's only a 30% snare, and the duration of it is half of what it used to be. So I thought this was pretty great for any kind of medium armor build, anything that is really mobile actually, even anything that's sprinting on their feet, using mist form, etc. You can no longer like effectively snare stun someone by spamming a gap closer on them when they're using their mobility abilities like sprinting and mist form. It's no longer as effective as it used to be. So what this does is essentially makes movement much more effective than it used to be. Of course, there was a sharp decline in sustain this patch, but I really appreciate that ZeniMax had gone and identified the snare issue and then gone and removed that from the game this patch. So guys, in the end, I was pretty underwhelmed with Battlegrounds. I honestly didn't enjoy them that much. I thought that World PvP was actually better. I streamed Battlegrounds today for about an hour and a half, and that's about all I could take before I left and went into Cyrodiil, and then continued to play PvP there, and I had a much better time. I really hope that ZeniMax takes into account some of the issues that Battlegrounds have right now, especially the queuing issues and selecting your game mode. I think those are some of the biggest things that absolutely must get changed before this hits, you know, the full release of it. Before this thing is out of pre-release, they absolutely need to fix those. And yeah, so my recommendation, guys, if you're going to get Morrowind for Battlegrounds, I would honestly hold off on it for a little bit. I would wait to see if ZeniMax fixes these issues. And I say that because if the Battlegrounds remain the way that they are after this pre-release is over, I don't honestly think that a lot of players will partake in it. I think it'll be a very unattractive game mode simply due to something like as silly as inaccessibility. And you know, I think that Battlegrounds have a lot of potential to be fun. Please don't ruin your Battlegrounds just because of something like inaccessibility. As you can see, the beautiful proc kill there, just showing off how the proc builds are in Battlegrounds. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.